Already watched my how I ended up in foster care videos, just saying. So my mom signed her rights away and then I ended up in a shelter. I remember my first night there, I was so freaking scared because I had no idea what was going on and I had nobody. So one of the staff members leads me to my room and I share that room with 3 other girls. So there's no privacy. And some of the girls woke up because they're like, oh, a new girl. And naturally we all talked about our stories and like what we've been through and whatnot. And I went to go use the restroom. And when I came back, I saw that they did this to my stuffed animal. Basically, they stabbed his fucking eyes for no reason. So I got the message that I was not liked. Life was kind of normal in this shelter. Kinda. So how the shelter was set up was they had girls on one side, boys on the other, and a common room in the middle, and then a cafeteria like right behind the common room. But it was all open space. Part 2 coming. Part 2 of my life in foster care. So the place was run by these people who work there, they're like staff or whatever, and they were fucking assholes, the majority of them. Not all of them, but the majority. Like, they really yell at you. They don't even care. Like, no, they do not care about your feelings at all. And 2 types of people come in this shelter. You have children that are in foster care, and then you have children that come across the border who don't have parents. Or they were separated from their parents. It's a really sad situation. And there was a good amount of people in this shelter. The food there sucked. It was like cafeteria food every day for morning, lunch, and dinner. We weren't allowed to sleep in. We had to get up at a certain time. We were told when to shower. We couldn't leave the shelter, of course. We only got to play outside for an hour a day. It kind of felt like a fucking prison. I mean, it's a little nicer than a prison, but still, it sucked. We weren't allowed to watch any like scary movies. Everything had to be PG. And I almost got in a fight with this one chick. It was really interesting. Part 3 on the way. Part 3 of my life in foster care. So yes, before I start this video, yes, I am okay. I'm 20 years old now. I'm an adult. I don't live with my parents anymore. I'm not being abused anymore. This all happened when I was 16. So anyways, this chick tried to fight me. Now what had happened was, I was sitting at the table talking to this one girl who was also there with me, and she was really nice to me, so, you know, we struck up a conversation. And then these 2 females across from the table kept staring at me like this. And me being me, I was like, is there a reason why you're fucking staring at me? And one of the chicks goes, it's none of your business why we're staring at you. And I was like, well, it kind of is because you keep staring at me and it's making me uncomfortable, so could you stop? And then the other chick got so mad about that. She was all like, who the fuck do you think you are telling me what the fuck to do? So at this point, I got up and she started coming at me like, screaming, hold my shoes, I'm from Louisiana, I'll beat your ass. Part 4 of my life in foster care. Y'all, I'm popping these videos out as fast as I can, okay? And I'm not doing this for clout, so my videos don't have to reach a certain amount of likes, so I will keep posting. Like, y'all don't have to worry about that. I just want to share my story with you guys. Anyway, so she's screaming, hold my shoes, I'm from Louisiana, I'll beat your ass, you don't want none of this. And everybody else is laughing at her. I'm laughing at her. And one of the male staff members, like, blocks her like this. And then he restrains her against the wall. And she's just really trying to get me like, come here, you dumb bitch, I will beat you. And I'm just laughing at her like, you look awful mature right now. Did you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish? And y'all, I'm a nice person, but I am a sassy queen, okay? I'm very sassy. So the rest of the time we were there, I wasn't allowed to sit next to her and she wasn't allowed to sit next to me. And the only times we really saw each other was when we were in the common room fighting over music. She was big into rap and I was big into screamo, and those things kind of clashed just a little bit. I like rap now, but I mean back then. Yeah. Fun fact about me is I've never been in a fight my entire life with someone my age. Alright, part 5 coming. So real quick, I just want to address where I'm at now and what's going on with my life right now. So right now I live in Houston, Texas. I live with my grandma, but I will move out very soon once I get enough money, but it's expensive. I have seen my brother since what happened, and yes, I do talk to my mom sometimes, but I do keep my distance because I don't want to get hurt, you know? I do know who my dad is, and I met him when I was 16, and I do talk to him sometimes, but we're not very close. If y'all have more questions or y'all are confused about something, just drop a comment and I will get to them to the best of my ability. Thank you. Part 5 of my life in foster care. So I've seen a few comments about asking what I looked like when I was 16, and y'all aren't even ready for this. Oh my god, this is me. Ow. Yeah, I got bullied a lot. The kids at the shelter used to call me a cow or a whale. Very mean things. And the reason why I had gained so much weight is because one, the food in the shelter was really, really, really bad for you. And I ate a lot. And my mom has taught me to have a very unhealthy relationship with food. If I didn't finish all my food that was on my plate, I would get my ass beat. Or I wouldn't be allowed to eat at all. So when the McDonald's man would come to the shelter like once a month and bring all this food, I ate. Let me clarify. This guy would buy all the kids at the shelter hot and spices, a McChicken, and fries. Like there was like tons of it. And there was enough food to go around for everybody. But I'd eat like 4 McChickens at once. Anyways, I'm gonna tell you more about the kids in the shelter because they're really interesting people too. Part 6 coming. Part 6 of my life in foster care. So this video, I'm going to be talking about the kids who were in the shelter with me and how interesting they were. So remember when I said that there's 2 types of kids in the shelter? There's the kids that come from across the border and foster kids. Well, the one I'm talking about right now is one who came from across the border. And he loved me so much. He was a 6-year-old little boy and he like clung to me like I was his mother, and I miss him. There was a girl who lied about her age and lied about being pregnant and lied about a whole bunch of stuff just for attention. She actually got pregnant and had her baby, and then she neglected it and it got taken away. So it's like, what? There was a girl named Summer who I was close with, and she was my roomie, I guess, and she was really, really, really nice, and I hope she's doing really well now. We kind of had a thing for each other, but she was like, I'm not sure if I'm bi or not. And I'm like, well, if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. Like, I don't want to be the one getting my heart broken by you, sorry. There were 2 brothers who were both assholes, but both very nice to me at the same time. The younger brother was one who used to call me a whale, and the older brother had a crush on me, and we did some things. Part 7 coming. Part 7 of my life in foster care. So I'm going to tell you how I met my dad. My biological dad who left me at birth. So one day I was just chilling, you know, as one does. And one of the staff members comes up to me and she's like, hey, we got in contact with your dad and he's going to come visit you. And I was like, why would my stepdad visit me? That doesn't make any sense. And she went, no, we're talking about your real dad. And I fucking laughed in her face. I was like, y'all got jokes? They weren't joking. Then I cried for like 3 hours. Because listen to this. My mom and dad had me when my mom was 17/18 and my dad was like 21, 22. And he did not want me. When I actually met him, I asked him about it and he said, yeah, I told your mom to get rid of you. So I don't blame him for leaving. I get it. He wasn't ready. But he came all the way up from Houston to Dallas to come see me. And my dad is really funny looking. And he promised me all these things of, you can live with me and we could finally be a family. Well, I couldn't live with him because he was a felon. But he did have a sister and there were plans made. Part 8 coming. Part 8 of my life in foster care. So after I met my dad, something kind of crazy happened. One of the ladies came up to me one day and she was like, hey, your brothers are here. And I was confused as hell. I was like, why are they here? I was like, are they just here to visit me? And she goes, no, they're here to live here. And I was like, oh snap. So what had happened was, it is a little suspicious to drop off your child and go to Disney World 3 days later. So they were investigated and my mom had to take a drug test and she failed. So my brothers got taken away. And it was really nice to see them again, but I could tell they hated me. And don't worry, they don't hate me anymore. We're on really good terms. I've gotten to see them since then. Everything's okay now. But seeing my brothers in the same situation I was in broke my heart because I was always the one to protect them, and I couldn't protect them. And I really beat myself up for it. It really sucked. But my brothers came about a month after I did, and you're only allowed to stay at the shelter for 3 months. And I think that's when my depression really hit me hard, because I couldn't do anything about it. Part 9 coming. So growing up, I was always told that the devil's lettuce was horrible and that if I ever did it, I would go to hell, right? And I also said earlier that there were 2 brothers who lived in the shelter with me and I did stuff with the older brother. Well, this is that story. So remember when I said I worked 2 jobs? Well, I had money from those 2 jobs, right? But they were on a card. This said card was in the HR lady's office, and the older boy was paying a lot of attention to me and asked me to take back my card so he could go buy some stuff. And like I said, I had never done it before, so I was really hesitant, but he was like, no, trust me, it's amazing. And I was already going through a really dark place, dark time, and I was just like, whatever. So I stole my card back. And then when we went to school one day, in the beginning of the day, we withdrew my money and then we bought some stuff. We walked 4 miles to go get a Rillo because they gave us a gum wrapper to smoke out of. And it was so hot. Well, we finally get to where we need to go. We sit down, he rolls it, and then he's like, all right, you ready? And boy, was I not ready. Part 10 coming. So we sit down, he takes a hit, and he passes it to me. And I'm like, are we sure about this? And so I take a hit and I don't feel anything. And then 10 minutes later, I still don't feel anything. And I'm like, this is whack. This is fake news. This is wrong. I shouldn't have done this. But boy, was I wrong. I started to get a little happy. I was giggling. It's like, hee. And it's time to head back to school. So we start walking 4 miles back. But I'm like, let me sit down, please. I'm tired. So we sit down and we're just chilling out. And he looks at me and he goes, you smell. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, you stink. And I was like, okay, that's rude. And he goes, no, like, you smell like dog shit. And I was like, what? Yeah. He said, get up. And I got up. And I had sat in a fresh pile of dog shit. The wet kind. And I had to walk 4 miles back to school with dog shit on my pants. Part 10 of my life in foster care. So we're walking back to the school and we stop at a park and then he's like, hey. And then things happened. And that thing lasted 30 seconds. And he was so embarrassed. He got up like, and it still amazes me that everything happened with dog shit on my pants. Like, Anyway, so we go back to the shelter that night and, you know, things are chill. And I saw a lot of people asking me what happens after 3 months of being in the shelter. Well, you get kicked out. You aren't allowed to stay there anymore unless you get an extension. You either go to a foster home or an RTC, which is a residential treatment center, and it's basically like a mental hospital, except you are there for years, not weeks. But after the shelter, I mean, that's basically what happened. So after my 3 months were over, I wasn't allowed to get an extension, so I was separated from my brothers. I went into a foster home with a lovely lady named Miss Brown. She's like 60, 70 years old. She's an old lady. But man, was she strict as hell. I mean, for good reasons, but... And my brothers couldn't come with me because she only took girls. Part 12 coming. Part 11 of my life in foster care, and I just want to put out a warning that I will be talking about my eating disorder, so if that's going to trigger you, don't watch this. So I have to leave the shelter because my 3 months are over, and I go to the foster home with Miss Brown. There were 5 other girls in this house. They were chill, but they were all fake. They would make fun of me a lot and talk shit about me behind my back for being fat. Yeah. They told me, if you weren't so weird, you would be popular because you're actually kind of pretty. Like, what a shitty fucking thing to say, right? But I stopped eating and I started losing weight. And my foster mom was like, hey, you need to eat food. But I didn't want to because I was fat in my mind. And I found out that my foster sisters were talking shit about me when I snuck out of the house to go visit my boyfriend. And this was a 2-story house, and I couldn't sneak out the first story, so I had to jump from the 2nd-story window. That will be on my next video. I'll see y'all then. So I tried to find the tweets that she had said about me, but I couldn't find them, so sorry guys. So I had a boyfriend at the time. His name is Joe. Joe was also a toxic, manipulative piece of shit who claimed he was a master. That's called being a fake dom. Don't fall for it. But I was so in love and I just wanted to see him. So my foster sister Janelle, she had money for an Uber. How she got that money? Well, she went into her teacher's purse and stole her fucking credit card. Good times. She was also a serial shoplifter, so it's like, you're not the greatest person. Anyways, so Janelle was talking to this one chick and I was talking to Joe and we were both gonna go sneak out to see our boo things, but Janelle flaked on me. But she said, you can still go Uber and go see that guy if you want to go see him. I'll pay for it, it's okay. And that's what I did. But you see, we lived in a 2-story house and we couldn't exit through the 1st story because there was an alarm system. So I had to jump from the 2nd-story window. Part 14 coming. Part 14 of my life in foster care. So I'm getting ready to jump out this 2-story window and I'm having a little bit of second thoughts. Some doubt, if you will. As I'm staring down at the far drop below me, I'm like, this is a little high, don't you think? And my sister was like, nah, you got this. I did not got that. I sat down at the edge of this windowsill and I dangled my legs off the side. Then I slipped and I hung like Jesus for a second. Just like this, hanging out the window, just like this. And I was like, okay, I just need to drop. And I did. And I rolled and I was good. And it hurt a little bit, but I was fine. I landed on grass. Anyways, the Uber was there and he was like, did you just jump out of a 2-story window? And I said, that's none of your business, sir. Can you take me where I need to go? And it's around like 11 o'clock. So yeah, then I go to Joe's house. Joe is also sneaking out, but he did not jump out of a 2-story window. And we have the most magical night. Not really. It's really cold and it starts to rain. And Joe wants to do it behind a church. A church! I mean, we still did it, but that's besides the point. Part 15 coming. Part 15 of my life in foster care. So I'm out with Joe on this wonderful, cold, windy, rainy night. and it's getting cold, so he wants to go get a jacket. So we go back to his house and he goes inside, and I lean against the front door like this, and I accidentally ring the doorbell at 2 in the morning, and he runs out of the house like, oh shit, oh my God. I felt like the biggest asshole. And he's like, you need to hide right now. And the wind and the rain was coming down and I was freezing. And he went back inside to go tell his parents like, oh, it's nothing, it's fine. And I'm getting rained on and it's freezing and he couldn't even bring me a jacket. And they say romance is dead. But it calms down, he comes back out, brings me the jacket, and he's like, hey, you wanna keep going? I said, no, I wanna go home, I'm cold. So we call the Uber, I get home, and now I have to figure out how to sneak back inside the house. I didn't think of that part. I threw rocks at the window until my sister woke up, and I said, help me! How am I supposed to get back up? We had no clue. Part 16 coming. Part 16 of my life in foster care. So I threw rocks at the window until my sister woke up, and then she woke up and she was like, how are you gonna get inside the house? And I'm like, I don't know. The bed sheets were too short. I threw her the gardening hose and I tried to scale up the wall like fucking Spider-Man. I broke the gardening hose with my thick ass. And then we realized we could do nothing but wait, because no one was gonna open the door for me. So I lay on the grass and I'm cold as fuck. And I'm laying down for about 4 hours, right? Till it's morning. So then I have the idea of, hey, maybe if I jump over the fence and I go in through the back door, maybe it'll be fine. Well, the neighbor sees me and she comes over and she's like, hey, are you okay? Are you Miss Brown's foster kid? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, are you sure? Do you want me to go get her? And I was like, please don't get her. Just go away. So I'm in the backyard now and I see Miss Brown's adoptive daughter in the kitchen. I'm like, hey, let me in. And she's like, why would I let you in? You did this to yourself. And then she snitched on me. Part 16 of my life. Part 15. Part 17 of my life in foster care. Sorry I'm not at my usual setting, you guys. John Claudio and I are hanging out a lot, and yeah, so I'm just chilling in the backyard, right? And I'm just waiting for Miss Brown to come out and be like, what are you doing? Oh, and she did, but it was more like, what the hell are you doing outside at this hour? You are supposed to be in bed asleep. You got school later. What are you doing? Of course, I didn't want to get in trouble, so I told her that I just needed to take a walk. And she's like, yeah, okay, sure. I got everything taken away from me, but rightfully so, I get it. I can't be mad at that. Ooh, do my jawline be looking sharper? What? Anyway, so later that night, I found out my foster sister was talking a shit ton of shit about me on Twitter. She talked about how this saggy titty bitch used her car, and basically how I was the fucking worst. Like I said, I can't find those damn tweets because she fucking deleted them. What? Part 18 coming. Part 17. Part 18 of my life in foster care, featuring John Claudio. So nothing really too eventful happened while I was at Miss Brown's house, you know, everyday things. Like I just did the dishes, you know, the chores, and, you know, was a good little foster daughter. And then I was informed that my aunt was going to be taking me. So I said previously that I met my dad when I was 16, and my dad has a sister, okay? And this sister and I have never really gotten along because, you know, she's rude. She's one of those people who's a big hypocrite, who thinks she's always right and everything you do is wrong, and that she's just better than you in every way possible. So yeah, I don't really like her. But she was gonna take me because my dad couldn't take me because he was a felon. And the reason why I couldn't go with my grandma is because my mother explicitly stated that my grandma was this horrible person, and my grandma has prior cases with CPS, so that is why. Plus, my grandma had no idea what was going on because we hadn't talked to her in like 7 or 8 years. Oh, and when I told Joe, he was devastated. Part 19 coming. Part 19 of my life in foster care. So I'm just gonna say this though, my aunt was doing my dad a favor. My dad was the one who wanted to take me. My aunt didn't want to take me, but my dad had convinced her to take me. So yeah, and that's when I moved from Dallas, Texas to Houston, Texas. So once I moved back to Houston, I spent a good amount of my time hanging out with my dad, getting to know him because he wasn't in my life, ever. My dad's a total like metalhead, and he's kind of a weirdo, honestly. This is what my dad looks like, for those of you wanting to know what he looks like. He is Brazilian, so that's why he looked like that. See, I told you guys I wasn't fully white. That's a whole other topic though, and we're not even gonna get on that. So I was still dating Joe when I moved to Houston, right? Well, this is when I realized Joe was a freaking psycho. I went out to a concert with my dad, and he had spammed my phone like 100 times. Let me rephrase. He called my phone like 30 times, and he messaged me like 100. It was insane. I was like, dude, what? And my dad was like, get rid of him. And you know what? I did. Part 20 coming. Part 20 of my life in foster care. So I know some of you guys are probably wondering why my dad's such a freaking weirdo. Well, he never tried to be my dad. He always tried to be my friend. And he'd make really inappropriate jokes. Like, he said we should pull a prank on a lady of the night. Tell this lady that, we are father and daughter and looking to have some action. Yeah, just weird stuff. Anyways, so I broke up with Joe. And he started dating this girl he told me not to worry about, like, 2 days later. I was like, ooh. His girl best friend. Anyways, previously I had stated that Joe was a fake dom, and let me tell you why. He asked me to call him master with no previous BDSM experience, which is something you don't do. It's like you're posing, basically. He had no idea any kind of rules for BDSM. He knew nothing, and I do not encourage participating in BDSM if you are a minor. Don't do it. And sometimes he made me do things I wasn't comfortable with, but I was his girlfriend, so I didn't mind too much. Well, after a while, him and his new chick start dating, and then they break up, and she comes to me with some tea. Part 21 coming. Part 20 from foster care. So here's the tea this chick told me. It's actually pretty sad tea, but it gets funny. She had told me that Joe did inappropriate things to her without her consent. And that made me angry because no person should ever do unconsensual things to another person. It's not right. There's no excuse. So I'm evil. Her and I create a fake Instagram and we pose as this one chick. We ended up exchanging nudies. On our part, it was random internet nudies. And then we sent those nudies to his parents and told his parents what happened. Because yuck. And listen, he deserved it. You know why? She told me, and I absolutely believe it because he pulled the same shit on me, that Joe was texting her saying, oh, my mom's beating me, my mom's doing this to me, my mom's doing that. So she drives over to his house to go save him, and guess what? His mother's at work. He belittled my experiences in foster care to make his experiences seem that much worse. He was in foster care for like 2 days as a baby. Part 22 coming. Part 22, the final part of my life in foster care. So this is the final part because once I moved to my aunt's house, I wasn't technically in foster care anymore, even though CPS did check up on us. Then I turned 18 and then I aged out of the system, so boom. I do get a full ride to college, so that's really great. And I am going to college, so whoop, 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 whoop. Yes, I talk to my dad sometimes, but we are not close at all. Like, he has the opportunity to talk to me. He lived 20 minutes away from me for over 2 years, and he said it was too far. So if he's not going to make the effort, I'm not going to make the effort. I don't talk to Joe anymore. I blocked him on everything because why would I still talk to someone like that? Yuck. I don't talk to that one friend who I had in the previous videos prior. Like, no, I don't talk to anybody. I really don't. I talk to my mom sometimes. I just visited her recently. We are on good terms now, but, you know, I do keep my distance. Thank you guys so much for watching this series. I appreciate it. I will have a new series coming out soon. I love